So if you kind of feel like, okay, I went to the bathroom, but I don't feel like I got everything out. I just don't feel like I really emptied my bowels. Like I still got stuff in there that could come out and it's just not coming out. Well, if that's your situation, there's a variety of issues that can create this problem. So let's talk about what some of those underlying causes can be and steps you can take to improve it. Here we go.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So I got a great question from a viewer over on our 10 Signs for Poor Bile Flow video. And Felicia said, what if I feel like I never can completely empty my bowels? I was constipated for a really long time, but it seems soft but never fully empties now. I also have high AST and ALT blood test levels and a low thyroid TSH. Any tips? So I don't know Felicia, I don't know her situation. I'm not giving Felicia any medical advice here, but we can look at some of the things that can create this problem. Just understand that if you're dealing with this issue at home, it's really going to be about looking at what the possible underlying cause can be, because the steps that are really going to improve it are not going to be the same for everybody. I know you want me to just give you, just do this and it's all going to be great, but remedies don't work for most people because there can be different underlying causes creating the same problem. And if you're not addressing the underlying cause that's creating it for you, then you're just throwing darts at a remedy dartboard. So the first thing to think about is that there can be structural issues going on, but the fact that you had some constipation issues before kind of makes me think that there's probably some underlying causes that have the ability to be improved, especially when you're looking at the AST and the ALT being high. And that can be an indication of some liver issues. Sometimes those go high when the liver doesn't have the ability to really do its job the way that it should. And when low thyroid issues are going on, it's very common that this is also a liver problem, because we need the liver to help convert that thyroid hormone to the active version of the thyroid hormone that really makes things go. And it's the liver that does most of that conversion. And a lot of times it can't do that conversion if it's overwhelmed or it's not really functioning the way that it should be. So we need to look at that when we're looking at the possibilities of what could be creating this I just can't get everything out kind of feeling. Because the first thing that I want to look at is low stomach acid when somebody feels like, I can't get things out, especially if there was constipation involved. Now, there are other causes of constipation. There's an imbalance that can happen that can cause the body to send too much water to the kidneys and not enough to the bowels, and that can really cause that bowel to get dry and hard and difficult to move. And we talk about that a lot in our video on understanding constipation. If that's something that you need to dig into, we'll put the link in the description below this video. But a lot of times if there isn't enough stomach acid, then that stool will also get too alkaline, and things move through the intestinal tract slower when they're leaning on that alkaline side. They move faster when they're leaning on the acidic side in most cases, and they really seem to slow down, and the stool, again, moving slower, can get harder and more difficult to move. So because that may have been an issue when you were dealing with the constipation issue, you got to kind of wonder, is that still going on? And without enough stomach acid, it's very easy for bad bacteria to come in on the food that we eat, and then they come and set up camp, and then they create a lot of trouble in the stomach and the small intestine. So that's something that can restrict things moving through the way that they should. So when we don't have enough stomach acid, and it's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons. And so if someone's not making enough stomach acid, then it's going to slow the process of, first of all, the food even leaving the stomach. It'll slow that process down, and then it'll move through the intestinal tract slower. And then when it goes to leaving the system, it'll do that slower as well. And maybe all of it won't move out. So that's one possibility. But for something that could make sense for a situation that was dealing with all these liver issues, you might look to a poor bile flow situation. And it's very common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. It just kind of gets stuck in the gallbladder and it doesn't flow out the way that it's supposed to. That's very common for a wide variety of reasons. And when that bile is not flowing, the toxins that the liver filters out of the body don't get removed from the body because it puts a lot of those toxins into the bile, so those toxins can be carried through the intestinal tract and go out the back door. So when that happens, now the liver gets overwhelmed and it can't do all the jobs it's supposed to do, and we have that trouble converting the thyroid hormone to the active thyroid hormone, and the liver can't function correctly, and we get all these other blood tests that can go high. So that's another thing that kind of indicates that maybe poor bile flow is a problem. Maybe you're looking at other symptoms. Felicia was looking at our video on 10 signs of poor bile flow, so maybe something drove her to that. And if you want to look to see, okay, is this problem because I don't have enough stomach acid, or is it because I have poor bile flow? We'll put links to both of those videos in the description below, both for our 10 signs of poor bile flow and for our 10 signs of low stomach acid. We'll put links to both of those, because sometimes to really fix this, it's about figuring out which side of digestion is not working correctly. Is it the stomach acid side or the bile flow side? Because you really need both sides flowing correctly to really digest your food and get all the nutrients out of that food, but also for things to move through at an appropriate pace. So if there isn't enough bile flow but stomach acid is working correctly, then things will move a little bit faster through the system because they're a little bit more acidic. And sometimes that can cause the stool to be a little bit more loose. And if things are looser and moving faster, then it might not have time to accumulate and form into a full stool like you want it to. So it might move out, and then you think, I kind of feel like I still have stuff going on, but it's not really ready to come out just because things were moving a little faster than they should. So that's another possible situation there. And then another thing to think about is that, wow, it moves faster when it's leaning on that acidic side, but it also has the ability to move a little bit faster if it's leaning way too alkaline. Now, when things in the stool are more on the alkaline side, it'll slow them down. But once they go way too alkaline, like maybe there's some type of bacterial infection coming in and all the waste from that bacteria is very alkaline and causing the stool to be way too alkaline, the over-alkalinity can also irritate the intestinal lining, just like something being too acidic could. And the body will want to rush that through, and maybe that's speeding things through so that you're not getting that full stool formed, and it kind of feels like you're leaving stuff in the tank, so to speak. Another thing to think about is that sometimes just adding more fiber can help that stool kind of form better and get it all moved out. And this is the solution that most people want it to be. It just usually isn't the solution. It's something we need to be aware of. Maybe if somebody's doing a carnivore diet and not getting a lot of fiber that way, it does have the ability to make them feel like, I'm just not getting everything out. And that's not to say that a carnivore diet is wrong. There's a lot of scenarios where I feel like it is right, but it's definitely not right for everybody. There are people that have some imbalances or malfunctions going on where it's hard for them to succeed on a carnivore diet and get the results they really want. But a lack of fiber in any regard has the ability to change that stool formation, where a person might not feel like they're getting it all out. And sometimes either adding more fiber or even supplementing with some fiber can all of a sudden allow that stool to form a little bit more and push it out. Just know that this is usually not the solution. The solution is usually that there is either one or both of those sides of digestion not working correctly. Either the person does not have enough stomach acid or their bile is not flowing correctly. And if you want to figure this out for yourself, we have a totally free digestion course that walks you through figuring out which aspects aren't working correctly and then helps you find the right steps for you that you need to correct those issues. And I'll put the link to that totally free course in the description below this video if you feel like that might help you out. But since low stomach acid is really the most common cause for this situation, jump over right now and check out that video on 10 signs of low stomach acid to see if other signs show up to indicate that in making improvement there could really turn the situation around. I can't wait to hear about your results.